All right, so tip number 5, aim for passive house. So again, you've got your team put together. You've got them committed to the low carbon goal. You've assessed your site for both passive and active solar energy. So that's getting the energy from the site, knowing how much renewables you can produce, and then using passive solar design to cut the energy needed, especially during the winter time, and keeping the sun out during the summer. And then in that same design stage with your team, while you're working on the passive solar, you're also looking at right-sized spaces and finding ways to shrink the space down, but still have it live and feel better and function better for your clients. Now, if you think about it, we're already halfway through. And besides, really we're just talking about a little more design time, a little more thought into the design of the house and what you're going to do. At this point, we haven't, really asked you to spend any more costs on any kind of, products that that could go above and beyond for energy efficiency. This is all just design stuff, and it's just putting more effort and thought with your team in the early design stage and communicating that out. So now we're going to start shifting halfway through here to asking you to look at more products that might increase some cost, but that will have a justification for payback and certainly help with the low carbon. So aiming for passive house is, the passive house program certification, whether you're talking international or whether you're talking US, is really, I think, a goal that every project starting today, and they work for commercial, multifamily, existing, you name it, they've got pathways. Every project should, in our opinion, just aim for it. When you're sitting with your team at the site or the design meeting, set that goal, that low carbon goal, and then set that sort of passive house goal underneath it, and say, let's try to get here. What can we do? Let's look at the program and what are the ways we can get there. So what that means is you're looking at just a full envelope around the house, air sealed, insulated, all the way around, and that's going to change on how thick that is depending on your climate zone and whether you're single family or multifamily, limits on renovations. But that's what your key goal is here, is to get that insulated and air sealed all the way around. So up in the attic, we're looking at anywhere between R50 and R80. In the walls, we're looking at anywhere from R25 to R40. Down under the foundation and the basement slab, we're looking at R10 to R20, and actually recommending that you just get rid of the basement entirely and use the cost that you're building a basement somewhere else, which is also making the house more energy efficient and less prone to rot and leak and water penetration. And part of that is having really low U factor windows, ideally 0.21 or even lower on the U factor, or if you make the conversion, somewhere between R5 to R10 on the R value factor for your windows. And then also just making sure you have proper glazing and not too many windows if you don't need them, because they're going to be the least efficient point, of your wall system. And this can be done with double pane. It doesn't have to be expensive, triple pane windows. And you can check out Ava windows for stuff like that. They've got R7 all the way up to R7, which is pretty good, and they've got aluminum-based windows which have recycled content in it, so that's pretty neat. The other thing you want to consider here is advanced framing. So basically, what's going on with advanced framing, as you can see here, is you've got less connections of wood from going from the exterior to the interior of the house. And so what that's going to do is stop thermal bridging because energy transfers through that wood. It also is going to potentially cut costs on how much wood you need. And then also it's going to potentially reduce wood waste and material resource utilization. So we know you can get up to 24-inch on center. Builders are doing it all the time. These are advanced framing strategies that you can check out LEED has some good pathways for that. Many of the green rating systems kind of spell those out. California corners, you name it. You can reduce that wood and you can reduce that heat loss transfer in a conventional framing system. And there are new solutions out there when you're doing that called structurally insulated framing systems. So these are pre-insulated systems that further stop that thermal bridging from happening by insulating the stud. And they can come pre-insulated with foam, or they can, come bare naked for retrofits, and you can fill them, with whatever your choice of insulation is: cellulose, fiberglass, hemp, mineral wool, wood fiber, horsehair, they say. But this is a new innovation that we think, can work out well pretty easily. The other innovation that is out there is one that involves a sealant that can easily help get your air leakage down. So a lot of energy is wasted through air loss in our buildings, especially in cold weather climates. And a lot of times we really can't control how airtight our buildings are. But there is new devices out there that can be set up either in the pre-drywall stage or the final stage, or even on existing homes if you can seal everything off, that basically spray an aerosol sealant into the house, and it lets you get your targeted air leakage rate to where you want it to be, so you know how much energy the house is going to use. And so while that sealant was going off, somebody's operating a computer and they're operating a blower door, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And basically what they're doing is they're testing how tight the project is, and they can keep that sealant going that I just showed you until it hits whatever air tightness target they want it to be, which, we recommend being fairly low, down to 0.6 air changes per hour, or down to, less than, I believe the number is 0.1 CFM per square foot, which is the kind of the new numbers of the way they're looking at that. So, that air loss and air leakage, very important, and this is one way to control it. Especially at the end of a project, you can go back in and use a product like that to reduce it down to where you need it to be. So speaking of Passive House, further training, we have a whole bunch of Passive House certified CEUs on our website, and you can go in and check that out. We're always adding more, and so this talks about all the concepts that it takes to get to really these low energy homes, and then also just recommending working with certified Passive House consultants and certified Passive House builders, getting trained and credentialed. Because more important than just the products we talked about is also the strategies you use to achieve these results and get there for doing it. Now, keep going with me here on our building envelope side, but more than just achieving these results, which will get you operational carbon reduction, you might also want to consider upfront carbon. And so there's a lot of tools and resources coming out now that really show which insulation material we choose to use, whether we retrofit or build new. Really shows that in some cases we could be wasting a lot more carbon from the choices we make because that carbon is there locked into the product. And so there could be better products that we use that maybe aren't as energy efficient, or you can have both, but you want to make sure in your design stage with your team that you're also considering the carbon of the material and how it's being made, not just the operational side. And kind of going on that same idea, a report here from Energy Efficiency for All kind of shows health, which once you build a really tight building, you could cause potential health issues to client. So we also recommend not just looking at the operational carbon, the embodied carbon, but also the health of the products that's being installed. And so, you're kind of making a recommendation between those three different funnels that you push it through, and you can figure out which one's most important to you and your client, but that's another aspect. But we do tend to find products that are typically healthier also have less upfront or embodied carbon.